Lovely to see you. Great to see you.
Made it.
You've said this is a very special place for you in the past. You've said this is your happy place. What is so special about Birk Hall and Balmoral?
What seemed like an ordinary day behind the palace walls quickly took a dramatic turn, following the arrival of a plain brown envelope. There was nothing royal about it. No seal, no insignia. On it, in bold handwriting, were the words, "To King Charles." Inside was a handwritten letter, its contents as startling as its delivery. According to palace sources, Queen Camilla completely lost her composure after reading what was inside. So what exactly did the letter say? And what could have possibly triggered such a strong reaction from the Queen herself? Stay with us as we uncover the jaw-dropping details, the unexpected news. When it comes to the royals, you just know they're always entangled in one drama or another. From whispered scandals to public spectacles, the House of Windsor rarely sees a dull day. But the latest drama unfolding behind palace walls? This one may just be the juiciest yet, because it involves King Charles and a bombshell claim that could shake the royal family to its core. It all started on what was supposed to be a seemingly ordinary day. No fanfare, no parades, just a quiet hum of activity within the palace. Then came the delivery. A brown envelope, plain, unassuming, and completely out of place. No stamp of officialdom, just a simple package that somehow slipped past the palace security and ended up right where it needed to be. Written boldly across the front were the words, "To King Charles." What was inside would not only jolt the king, but reportedly cause Queen Camilla to stop cold in her tracks. Inside the envelope was a handwritten letter, its message as shocking as its arrival. The writer claimed to be King Charles's secret love child, and to make matters even more explosive, enclosed within the envelope was alleged DNA evidence meant to prove it. But this wasn't the only shocking thing in the envelope. So what other information was in the envelope? Stay tuned, because this is a story you do not want to miss. Queen Camilla's reaction to the content of the envelope was immediate and scary. Sources close to the palace say she went into a rage upon reading the contents, not just because of the accusation, but because the timing and evidence presented couldn't be so easily brushed aside. The calm of the palace was suddenly shattered. Whispers flew. Staff exchanged knowing glances. And yet, this wasn't even the full extent of what the envelope contained. Because the man behind this revelation is not just a name on paper. He's a living, breathing reminder of a chapter that the royal family may have desperately wanted to forget. His name is Simon Durante Day, and he's a 58-year-old Queensland-based Australian with British roots. Simon Durante Day claimed that he is the biological son of King Charles III and Queen Camilla. According to Simon, he's been on a decades-long quest to prove he has royal blood running through his veins, and now he's ready to take his claim to the courtroom. Simon's story is as detailed as it is dramatic. He was adopted at just 8 months old by a couple whose own parents had worked closely with Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. Growing up, Simon was told that his origins were far more regal than his paperwork suggested. He began to believe that he was not just an ordinary child, but the hidden result of an affair between Charles and Camilla, conceived long before the public ever knew about their infamous love story. The alleged timeline centers around a trip to Australia in 1965. Simon claims that during this time, a 17-year-old Charles traveled down under to study, while an 18-year-old Camilla vanished from the public eye. It's during this window, he believes, that he was conceived, only to be secretly delivered and hidden away for 8 months before being quietly put up for adoption. As part of that adoption arrangement, Simon says, his given name, Simon Charles, was kept. According to Simon, it was none other than Queen Elizabeth II who confirmed his suspicions on her deathbed. No less, that revelation, he claims, only confirmed what he already believed deep down. He was royal by birthright, and his identity had been swept under the rug to protect the monarchy's image. But there's more. Simon says the resemblance between him and the king is undeniable, especially the left side of his face, which he insists is a mirror image of Charles. More than that, he claims his 9 children also bear a strong resemblance to Prince William and Prince Harry. At one point, he even compared photos of himself alongside the king's sons, suggesting that his likeness is more convincing than that of Charles' supposed legitimate heirs. Still, Buckingham Palace has never publicly addressed Simon's claims, but silence has never deterred him. If anything, it emboldened him. And now, with King Charles and Queen Camilla set to visit Australia, Simon sees an opening, a chance, a moment where jurisdiction may finally be on his side. He has announced his intent to take legal action. He wants a DNA test from both the King and Queen, and he's ready to fight for it in court. In an interview with 7 News, Simon revealed that he and his wife, Dr. Elviana Durante Day, have been quietly building their case behind the scenes. While social media may have gone quiet, he says, the work has continued relentlessly. Legal documents are being prepared. Evidence is being reviewed. He made it clear that he's not chasing money, nor is he chasing fame. For Simon, it's about one thing only, the truth. He believes the time has come for both Charles and Camilla to admit what they've kept hidden for so long. No more secrets. No more silence. In 2022, he expressed hope that by sharing his story through platforms like Netflix or other media, he might apply enough public pressure to force a response from the royal family. He continues to push that narrative, and he believes that now, more than ever, is the time. As the royal couple prepares for their upcoming trip, Simon's team prepares for theirs, into courtrooms, into headlines, and possibly into royal history. But to fully understand the weight of Simon's claims, we have to rewind a bit and actually look at the possibilities of Simon's claims. The bitter love story. All hell broke loose in 1995 when Princess Diana sat down with Martin Bashir for the now infamous Panorama interview. It was in that quietly devastating moment, with the world watching, that she dropped a line that would go on to define an era of royal scandal. There were 3 people in her marriage. That third person, of course, was Camilla Parker Bowles. The tangled relationship between Charles and Camilla didn't begin during his marriage to Diana. It reached far back, long before the public ever paired Diana with the future king. Charles and Camilla first crossed paths in 1970, introduced by a mutual friend, Lucia Santa Cruz. From the very beginning, the connection was undeniable. Reports suggest that Camilla, ever bold, kicked things off with a cheeky historical reference to their ancestors' own extramarital entanglements. Unbelievably, her cheeky comment worked, and sooner rather than later, the two began dating. But the romance was short-lived, cut off when Charles left to serve in the Royal Navy. By 1973, Camilla had moved on, at least publicly. She married Andrew Parker Bowles in a grand society wedding, while Charles, remaining close to her, was named godfather to her son Tom. The years passed and Charles eventually proposed to a much younger Diana Spencer in 1981. Though the engagement seemed joyful on the surface, cracks were visible even then. His infamous comment about love, questioning what it even meant, cast a shadow over what should have been a fairy tale romance. Just days before the wedding, Diana discovered a gift meant for Camilla, a specially made bracelet engraved with the initials F and G, the pet names Fred and Gladys that Charles and Camilla used for each other. It was a gut punch. To make matters worse, Camilla had gifted Charles a pair of cufflinks with their initials, and he proudly wore them on their honeymoon. For Diana, it was confirmation that she was entering a marriage that was already crowded. And for the world, it's all just beginning to make sense. Their endearment to one another might really stem from the love child they produced in the 1960s. By 1986, it's widely believed that Charles and Camilla had reignited their affair. 3 years later, Diana, no longer willing to suffer in silence, confronted Camilla directly. Despite knowing full well the toll it was taking on his wife, Charles continued to maintain the friend narrative, never acknowledging publicly what the world increasingly suspected. The royal family pressured Diana and Charles to remain together, but the tension became unbearable. By 1992, they announced their separation. Then came the scandal that truly turned the public against Charles. The Tampon-Gate tapes. A radio enthusiast had accidentally recorded a private and embarrassingly intimate conversation between Charles and Camilla from 1989. When the transcript was published and phone lines were set up to let the public listen in full, it was a public relations disaster. Charles' popularity tanked. In an attempt to repair the damage, he sat for a 1994 TV interview with Jonathan Dimbleby. While trying to explain himself, he effectively confirmed the affair by suggesting that he had remained faithful until the marriage had become irretrievably broken.
I had an end chair.
He also insisted Camilla was just a long-standing friend, a line that increasingly fell on deaf ears. Meanwhile, Diana had had enough. That same year, Camilla and Andrew Parker Bowles announced their divorce. With all parties now openly acknowledging the situation, the Queen decided it was time for Charles and Diana to officially end their marriage as well. But the damage had been done. Camilla, for many, became the symbol of betrayal, and the other woman who had come between the people's princess and her prince. The palace knew public opinion was against her. In response, a PR offensive began. Mark Bolland, a media strategist, was brought in specifically to improve Camilla's image. Slowly, they started reintroducing her into Charles' public life. Then came the tragedy that brought the monarchy to a standstill, the death of Princess Diana in a car crash in Paris in 1997. The world was in mourning, and attention returned to the royal family, not in reverence, but in fury. Many questioned their silence, their lack of visible grief, and the underlying coldness that seemed to surround the entire institution. In the midst of this, any efforts to rehabilitate Camilla's image were put on pause. The timing was far too sensitive. For a while, things remained quiet. Charles and Camilla kept their relationship away from the spotlight. It wasn't until 1999 that they stepped out publicly together for the first time, attending a birthday party at the Ritz Hotel in London, knowing full well that the world's photographers would be waiting. It was a calculated move, the first in a series of orchestrated steps toward legitimacy. By 2000, the groundwork paid off. Camilla was officially introduced to the Queen at a private gathering in Greece. It was understood as a symbolic endorsement, a long-awaited seal of approval. In 2005, the couple finally announced their engagement. The news stirred debate. How could the future head of the Church of England marry a divorcee? It was a familiar question, reminiscent of the abdication crisis decades earlier. But this time, the monarchy was determined to avoid scandal. The Queen herself was said to have had serious reservations, both personal and religious. Although she supported the union, she felt it would be inappropriate to attend the civil ceremony. Neither she nor Prince Philip showed up to the wedding itself. Instead, they joined the couple at the subsequent blessing and reception. Charles and Camilla married on April 9, 2005, and began their new life together, honeymooning in Scotland, far from the chaos that had defined so many years of their lives. But even as the couple settled into life together, certain stories have never quite disappeared. If anything, they have persisted. Whispers persisted in some corners of the press and royal watcher communities about a supposed love child, someone allegedly born in the late 60s, quietly placed into adoption or kept hidden from the public eye. The story was thin, unverifiable, and denied at every level. Still, the timing of their early affair, the emotional attachment, and the intensely protected privacy around certain years kept the speculation alive. Whether it is tabloid fiction or something more carefully buried, the rumor persisted as a strange echo of everything the royal family tried to keep under wraps, another thread in the long, tangled web of the Charles and Camilla saga.
The British monarch has given her blessing for Prince Charles' wife Camilla to be called Queen Consort.
Charles and Camilla's love is one that has endured years of scandal, public shaming, resistance, and personal tragedy. A love born in the shadows, surviving decades of scrutiny and disgrace, until finally, it was allowed to step into the light. But it came at a cost. The hurt of a young princess, the heartbreak of a nation, and the memory of a marriage that never stood a chance. And though time has dulled the outrage, the past still lingers, a reminder of everything it took for Charles and Camilla to be together, and all that was lost along the way. Camilla as Queen Consort. When Queen Elizabeth II died in September 2022, Buckingham Palace announced that Camilla would be styled as Queen Consort. It was a careful move, one that created distance between the newly crowned king, Charles III's wife, and the late monarch, whose name and legacy still echoed powerfully across the nation. But it didn't take long for that distance to shorten. Following the coronation of King Charles III, the palace quietly confirmed a change. Camilla would no longer be referred to as Queen Consort. The word consort would be dropped entirely. She would henceforth be known simply as Queen Camilla. The official coronation invitation left no room for doubt. It read, "The coronation of their majesties, King Charles III and Queen Camilla," firmly positioning her name beside the king's without any qualifiers. According to aides, this was now the appropriate styling, and they explained that referring to her as Queen Consort made sense during the early months of the king's reign, especially as a way to distinguish her from Queen Elizabeth II. But now, the time had come to make the transition official. All former queen consorts had been referred to as Queen, followed by their first name, and Camilla would be no different. It all seemed settled and stately, but this moment had been anything but inevitable. When Prince Charles married Camilla Parker Bowles in 2005, the idea of her becoming queen had been met with skepticism. At the time, the palace made it clear that when Charles ascended the throne, Camilla would not take the title of Queen Consort. Instead, she would be styled as Princess Consort. Even as recently as 2020, Clarence House had reiterated this position, stating that nothing had changed. But something clearly had. In February 2022, Queen Elizabeth II marked the 70th anniversary of her accession with a public letter to the nation. In it, she expressed her wish that when her son became king, the public would extend the same support to both him and Camilla, and that Camilla would be known as Queen Consort in recognition of her loyal service. It was a symbolic gesture, one that many believed to be the final seal of approval Camilla needed. The coronation invitation was revealed alongside a new portrait of the king and queen, taken by Hugo Bernard, the same photographer who captured their wedding photos back in 2005. Buckingham Palace also released the names of the 8 boys who would serve as pages of honor, including Prince George. Each of these details painted a picture of a monarchy leaning into a new era, while simultaneously tying up loose threads from the past.
I've been actually trying to keep quiet about reaching 3/4 of a century.
Camilla's public image has undergone one of the most dramatic transformations in modern royal history. Once vilified by the press and blamed for the collapse of Charles and Diana's marriage, she has now been firmly woven into the royal legacy. Not just as the king's wife, but as Queen Camilla. Whether the public ever fully embraces her in the way they did, Diana remains to be seen. But one thing is now certain. Her title, once contested and hedged with caution, is official. Camilla, once the outsider, is now queen. And if there are still shadows clinging to her past, they have at least for now been left behind the palace gates. But while Camilla might be settling into her role graciously, that's not to say that there aren't some royals who feel strongly towards her. How do the royals really feel towards Camilla? Queen Elizabeth II was said to have always detested Camilla Parker Bowles and only gave her reluctant blessing for Camilla to be known as Queen Consort. After what has been described as an unspoken deal involving Prince Andrew. This claim was made by Christopher Anderson, the author of The King, The Life of Charles III, during a conversation on Newsweek's Royal Report podcast. According to Anderson, one of King Charles III's greatest challenges after ascending the throne has been what he described as selling Britain on Camilla, although public sentiment towards her has softened marginally over the years. Anderson pointed out that the shift hasn't been dramatic. He referenced a YouGov poll from as recently as November, which showed that only 14% of Britons were comfortable with the idea of Camilla as queen. Anderson explained that Queen Elizabeth had long resisted publicly endorsing Camilla, and it wasn't until a quiet, behind-the-scenes agreement was struck that she finally relented. The arrangement, as Anderson narrated it, amounted to a subtle quid pro quo. Her approval of Camilla's elevation was, perhaps, tied to Charles's handling of the scandal surrounding his brother, Prince Andrew. The Queen's relationship with Camilla had always been complicated. In the early days of Camilla and Charles's romance, Elizabeth reportedly approached her with caution. This distance reportedly deepened after the tragic death of Princess Diana, an event after which the Queen's stance toward Camilla hardened. Over time, though, there were signs of a slow thawing, especially in the twilight years of Elizabeth's reign. Anderson described the Queen as someone who always detested Camilla, noting that the Queen Mother, too, had strong disdain for her. Camilla, in their view, had upset the institution's long-established order, throwing, as it were, a wrench in the monarchy's carefully maintained machinery. Many within the palace believed that the monarchy itself had been brought to the brink of collapse because of Charles's refusal to let go of Camilla, and when Diana died, the public outcry was fierce. Camilla was seen by many as a central figure in the events that led to the breakdown of Charles and Diana's marriage and, by extension, the tragic circumstances surrounding Diana's death. For a time, Camilla became one of the most vilified women in Britain, perhaps even the world. In response to this crisis, Buckingham Palace reportedly initiated a discreet rebranding effort known internally as Operation PB, short for Parker Bowles. The campaign's objective was to slowly rehabilitate Camilla's image in the public eye. But even after years of damage control, it took Charles 8 years to convince his mother and the institution to allow him to marry Camilla. As Anderson explained, part of the negotiation was a promise Charles made that Camilla would never be queen, only princess consort. Yet Anderson suggested that this was never Charles's true intention. He had always loved Camilla deeply, and to him, denying her the title of queen would be an affront. Anderson revealed that Charles lobbied Queen Elizabeth for 17 years, pressing her to approve the elevation of Camilla's status. While Elizabeth did eventually soften her stance, it was reportedly not because she fully embraced Camilla, but because she knew how deeply unpopular the move would be with the public, and how damaging it could be for the monarchy's credibility.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada, for making me feel so old.
The turning point, Anderson said, came in 2022, at the height of the controversy surrounding Prince Andrew's civil sexual assault case brought by Virginia Giuffre connected to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Charles was able to gain traction. Despite Andrew denying the allegations, he settled the suit out of court. It was during this volatile period that Charles reportedly pushed hardest for Camilla's future title. The timing, according to Anderson, was not accidental. While the Queen's final letter in February 2022 expressed her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort when Charles became king, some believe that endorsement was made under pressure or as part of a compromise aimed at preserving the crown during yet another royal crisis. But behind the diplomacy and titles, another question quietly lingers. Could Elizabeth's deep aversion to Camilla have been rooted in something even more complex? Some royal observers have long speculated about a secret from the past, a love child, said to have been born early in Charles and Camilla's relationship, and quietly put up for adoption to avoid scandal. While no official record or acknowledgement exists, the very persistence of this theory, unspoken in public, whispered in private, continues to cast a shadow over their long and winding love story. If such a child had existed, and if the Queen had known, it might explain not only her initial fury, but also her long resistance. In a family where bloodlines are destiny and image is everything, a secret heir would have been a ticking bomb. Camilla, once the disruptive outsider, would not just have represented a romantic indiscretion, but a constitutional threat. Regardless of what was known or suspected, Camilla is now officially queen. Her title secured not through unanimous public acclaim, but through decades of quiet maneuvering, strategic compromise, and the unwavering resolve of a king who simply refused to let her go. Do you think it'll ever be proved that Simon is really King Charles and Queen Camilla's secret love child? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Also, click on the next video shown on your script. You will enjoy it.